All right, so Gun Run, who is he? Well, he was one of the Twitch founding team who basically was in charge of VShojo. And Twitch has decided to remove the global emote for Gun Run, the CEO of VTuber agency VShojo, after the company officially shut down on July 24th. What is this? Well, for VShojo, as you all know, was the VTuber channel or VTuber entity business that was handling a lot of VTubers who in turn pocketed or lost or somehow click copy paste, it was disappeared, $500,000 in charity donations. That's right. Justin Gunrun was one of the founding members of Twitch, but in 2020, he went on to create one of the biggest VTuber agencies in the industry, VShojo. It quickly signed creators that would become some of the biggest names on Twitch, including Iron Mouse, Silvervale, and VBay. I think that's how you say it. But on Monday, July 21st, Iron Mouse revealed she left the organization in a YouTube video claiming they never made a promised $500,000 donation to the Immune Deficiency Foundation, a charity she holds a fundraiser for every year. Her video led a mass exodus from the agency, and other former members revealed shocking incidents where they weren't properly paid by VShojo. On Thursday, July 24th, Twitch silently removed Gunrun's emote from the platform, making it unavailable to users worldwide. So that's now gone. That's now gone. Don't be interrupting me. But let's also talk about a little bit more about what's happening here with a little bit of some fast facts, because VShojo has just confessed, people. It has confessed to some interesting things.
Confess to a crime, specifically fraud related to the Immune Deficiency Foundation, Iron Mouse's charity that she has been championing for a very, very long time. And we have a statement from the CEO, which just blatantly confesses to it and shows not just that fraud, but also wild mismanagement of company funds for a significant period of time. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire. This is a Legal Mindset where we teach you to be your own judge. And this is a Fast Facts premiere, giving you the short, quick summary version of what's going on today. Now, VShojo is in massive hot water. And I told you guys days ago that this was going to lead to insolvency. This was going to lead down the road to bankruptcy. And we have today a confirmation, and I was entirely right. They are going to go absolutely bank, right? It's done. They're in the red. They've got mass amounts of debt. They're not profitable. They weren't profitable even with everybody there. There's no way to get back to profitability. They are done. And this has...
By the way, yes, this is true. Nicholas Iron Mouse suffers from the disease herself. That's why she got into VTubing. And look, she does it every year, and she's always able to raise enough to help out people who suffer from the same disease. And it is a very painful thing to deal with. I mean, now, personally, I don't know anyone who suffers from that, but, you know, after looking more into like the ordeals and the pain and suffering that goes through it, I'm glad that somebody like Iron Mouse is able to do it. But the sad part of this story, unfortunately, is that 500K that was initially raised, saying that it was burnt up in a huge wall of fire is a bit of an understatement, because like, what the hell happened to the money? And as we've talked about, listen, they had $11 million in 3 years. It went under, it went in the toilet. What do you do with all that money? How do you lose it all?
More severe consequences than just losing your Twitch emojis, which happened today on Twitch. The Gun Run global emote is gone, but they have a lot bigger problems than losing cute emotes. So we're going to look at the statement by the Gun Run and why this statement is absolutely insane, why it's a confession, and also why it doesn't get anybody out of personal liability, why they're still going to be held liable regardless of this statement. This statement doesn't move the yard line, doesn't shift anything really that far, because this statement is only a confession and does not remove any liability of him as CEO or even personal liability, which is very, very clear in this when you look at the factual situation. So let's read through the statement very, very carefully, and then I'm going to analyze it after we go through it. So here's a statement from VShojo. This is on their X account, so you can go over and read that yourself. And you know, this is obviously unedited, etc. So I'm going to read this. VShojo has failed, and I've mismanaged the company into the situation you're all witnessing. So today I am sharing the difficult news that VShojo is shutting down. And I take full responsibility for the decisions that led us to this point.
By the way, I want to pause right here. You know, again, I'm skipping this paragraph here. Over the past few years, we raised $11 million to pursue a bold, talent-first approach in VTubing, prioritizing creators and community over short-term profits to achieve long-term sustainability. How the hell $11 million you raised it and it goes away? What did you do with that money? That booger sugar and the ladies of the evening? Hey, I'm gonna keep it classy here. That white powder from Colombia with ladies who like to have fun at night? Huh? What'd you do with all that money?
I've been doing everything I can to fundraise. Now, I'm going to pause there with fundraise. When he says fundraise, a lot of people may think that's a bake sale or this is some sort of selling cookies or whatever else. No, this is begging for money. He's talking about loans. So fundraising, he is talking about loans. He's talking about trying to borrow to keep the company going. Let's be very clear about that. So, and right the ship these past few months. I'm going to stop there as well. Months? No, this thing has been having a problem for over a year. This is a thing that is, they've been in financial hot waters for a very long time. This is not something that happened yesterday. It's not something that happened last month. This has been going on for a significant period of time. But despite my efforts, we're in a worse position. And those I care about now are paying the price. Over the past few years, we raised around $11 million to pursue a bold, talent-first approach in VTubing, prioritizing creators and community over short-term profits to achieve long-term sustainability. I can't even imagine how he wrote that with a straight face, given what's happening right now. I cannot believe he sat out and wrote that. Oh, this is what we wanted to do. This is what we're doing. No, you completely and utterly failed on that consistently over the long term. Over the long term, you abused and gaslit your talent over the long term into non-sustainability. You spent your money on wild advertising in Shibuya and everywhere else, you know, just going out and trying to promote and advertise, spending money you didn't have to try to push these talents in places that wouldn't help them. You weren't giving them what they needed. What they needed was a paycheck.
And that didn't happen. But there's a little bit more to this.
Run, not some weird station advertising. Okay, let's continue here. Our funding went directly to creators through generous splits to view investments, infrastructure, concerts, events, and staffing, all designed to support them. No, that didn't actually happen. We also wanted our talent to own the IP, which we knew was a unique creator-first approach for an agency. Now, that did happen. To credit where credit is due, the talents do own the IP. I've read the contract. That's true. However, despite all of our efforts, the business failed to generate the revenue we needed to sustain that model, and we ran out of money. Additionally, I acknowledge that some of the money, now here we go. Here's the confession. Some I acknowledge. So I am saying this happened. Some of the money spent by the company was raised in connection with talent activity. So he is confessing to the fact that they diverted funds which were intended to pay their talents. And they're calling them talents, by the way, because if they call them employees, they'll be screwed under labor law. They're using the language specifically talent because they know that they're trying to frame talents, independent contractor. We're going to get out of that. So they owed money to the talents and they spent it. They misallocated it. And then he goes on to say, so some of the money spent by the company, so saying it was spent by the company, right? Misallocated, was raised in connection with talent activity, which I later learned, keyword he put in later learned. The words later learned are him trying to get off the hook personally.
Man, he's beyond cooked. But there is a happy ending, though, because we'll play the rest of the video here. But I do want to let you all know that Iron Mouse did raise $1 million for the Immune Deficiency Foundation after leaving the VTuber agency claims. Again, they ran off with that $500K. Something You know what? I'm not gonna say they ran off. How about this? That 500K the first time around, which is very tragic, gone forever. But she was able to do an Uno reverse card and raise about again $1.1 million. And Iron Mouse had extra motivation to depart the agency, with which she'd become semi-synonymous with. She suffers from the chronic illness called common variable immune deficiency, or CVID, which leaves her highly susceptible to infection. The money she's made from streaming has allowed her access to better health care, thank goodness, but she remains largely homebound, helping others in similar situations by raising money for the Immune Deficiency Foundation, which provided her aid when she was lonely, terrified, confused during the darkest doldrums of her own health decline is her main cause. On a side note, we need healthcare here in the USA. You know, I only can imagine. No, you know what? No, I'm not going to say that. I take that back. YouTube rewind. I have no idea the amount of pain and loneliness that could come from this. And can you imagine, like, the place in which you put your trust in just runs off with $500,000 for something that's close to your heart? Barbaric.
He says, I later learned was intended for a charitable initiative. What he's trying to do here is say, oh, I didn't have personal knowledge of where the money was going in my company. You know, dollars come in, dollars go out. I don't know anything that's going on. I had no idea, no knowledge that this money should have gone to a charitable initiative. We just got a massive amount of money. We just got $500,000. And it just slipped through the cracks. That's like a couple pennies just falling in the couch. In no world does this hold up under any sort of investigation. Even the most cursory investigation, you need to know where $500,000 goes. This is not $250. It's not $350. This is $500,000 that just poof went somewhere. And as the CEO, you certainly have the responsibility to understand the major financial operations of your company. And yes, there's other officers that are on the line here. I know I can hear Tectone in the background skipping up. It's not just the gun run. Yes, okay, chill, Tectone, chill, bro. We all respect you, but you got to calm down. Of course, there's other people that manage the finances. There's other officers. There's the CFO that quit. There's a management officer that quit. There's other officers that have left. We talked about the officer that left 2 months ago, and he just posted, he tagged gun run. He's like, bro, what's going on? No, bro. Sorry, bro. Leaving 2 months ago doesn't get you off the hook. This thing has been going on for a while, at least in terms of the people not being paid, and also in terms of the charity misallocation. This is something that was done in the past. So if you were there as an officer 2 months ago and you quit, you're not necessarily off the hook. When the investigation looks at this and they get into the emails, they get into the documents, they get into, okay, what happened here? There at some point is going to be revealed a number of people, not just the gun run, but definitely including the gun run, that were involved in taking those funds and putting them other places. There were discussions that were had. So, and even if they were had in person, someone's going to crack, someone's going to break. No one.
Oh, there's going to be a crack. I mean, come on. Like, already looking at Twitch itself, the fact that it removed his emote. I mean, there's a whole other problem with Twitch as well. But I mean, I'm getting off topic here. 3 years, $11 million. No one's having any accountability. They're investing in advertising. They're investing in different other projects here, not focusing on long-term growth for the business. And then, of course, the big gut check. As soon as Iron Mouse dropped her truth bomb, by the way, anyone that had an NDA with VShojo, that NDA is, as it stands right now, and I could be wrong about this, null and void. And people have been saying that there still might be some talent left at VShojo. Oh no, everybody left. It's empty. Gone. Goku and Vegeta can have a full-blown fight in the building that was once VShojo headquarters, if they ever had one in the first place. Nobody's there. And anyone that's still there is in deep trouble.
This is wire fraud. This is misallocation of funds. This is violation of various other state and federal laws. This is no good. Right. And assuming on the face that all the facts we have are true, which I have no reason to believe because they've confessed this now. They've said, no, we actually misallocated the funds. There's no further proof needed other than getting into who's liable. And if we can pierce the corporate veil, that means holding individual officers, individual employees responsible personally for these misdeeds. Yes, we need more investigation as to piercing the veil as to certain people and certain individuals, etc. And I do think there's a strong possibility that that may happen. And I indeed hope that happens for some of these people trying to sink their head in the sand and say, oh, I later learned. No, bro. And let's show the proof here too. Let's show the proof here too. The gun run knew. He knew at the time. Here is literally the gun run saying, you did it, Mouse, October 1st, 2024. October 1st, 2024, saying you did it, Mouse. And really, the only thing that he needs to know is the feds will be looking at this post, right? So that's all he needs to know. Live tweeting during a Fast Facts. But yes, no, that's all we need to know is that statement is there. We've got pictures of him with Mouse fundraising. So we see this guy out there fundraising. We know he knew at the time, afterwards, before. He knew at all points of this. He knew what was going on. He was not an ostrich with his head in the sand. He knew what was going on. Let's finish the statement here. Let's finish the statement. At the time, we were working hard to raise additional capital to cover our costs, and I firmly believed, based on information available, we would be able to do so and cover all expenses. What that means is they were trying to get a loan. They used the money they didn't have, right? They misallocated the charity money, right, to try to pay current expenses because they thought they could get another loan. They were already in debt. They were already $2 million in debt, and they couldn't do it. And it says right here, we were unsuccessful in our fundraising efforts. I made the decision to pursue funding, and I own its consequences. I am deeply sorry. So right there, that last one too, guys, that last one is very true. I made the decision to pursue funding. What that means is he made the decision to not pay the talent and to keep the ship going a little longer.
That's what happened to the 500K.
So instead of paying the talent, even if that meant they would have had to close down, instead of doing what was right and just, he decided to push it down the line. He knowingly did this, guys. He knowingly did this. This guy, and look, this is, I rarely go off. I try to stay legal and objective here, but morally, this is a horrible decision. I mean, and I think this is something that's pretty non-controversial, right? If you see that you're failing, you're in debt, you're not doing well, right? You have to, at some points, be realistic, be adults. An adult has to come in the room and say, we need to cut this and we need to do what's right. We need to pay people out. And look, I'm sure if they talked to the talent and said, hey, we're not doing well, right? We're not doing well. We need to pay the employees, right? And hey, maybe everybody across the board, including employees, we're all going to take, including the CEO, we're all going to take a haircut. Everybody at the business has to take a 25% haircut across the board because we're hurting, right? And we're all going to be in this as a team. Okay, whatever. You could have had that conversation. You could have done something, but they decided not to do that. They decided to benefit certain people at the expense of others. It's absolutely deplorable behavior.
Maddening behavior when you really think about it. But I want to pause here for a second. That's going to shake the foundation to the VTuber world and anyone else. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these agencies, majority, it's like some of the big ones there are overseas, like in Japan and South Korea. Now, how they handle things is a whole other different ballgame. This right here is happening in the USA. And let's just say VShojo as an entity. Hold on, just to be clear on this one. This company, VShojo, not only is it going to be gone and forgotten, but this is going to impact federal laws. So U.S. federal laws are going to be flying over VShojo very soon, and anyone that's involved in it, especially who are making key executive commanding decisions. It is done. But other talent agencies are probably paying attention to this. Iron Mouse did flex her power and was able to expose the nefarious bad behaviors of these people. But see, they're not the only ones out there. There's a whole big rabbit hole of scummy behavior, corporate behavior, in the VTuber world, and in turn, a lot of people have been hurt, doxxed, careers ruined. This is only scratching the surface. But when it comes down to stuff like this in social media, the reason why I talk about it, the reason why I want to at least shine a light on it, because I notice people in independent media don't talk about it. And yes, this might be a niche subject. It's because it affects the bigger game on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, and normally you see VTubers on Kick or on Twitch. But the bigger story is overall what this does to social media interaction, how people and businesses are going to be run, not only here in the United States, but overseas. The demise of VShojo is going to be a far more bloodier feast than everyone realizes, because there's also another thing to take into account. And I don't want anyone to get paranoid or anything about that. But one has to wonder who else Justin, aka Gunrun, did he share this with? How many people were working in collaboration with him? How many third parties or entities or other corporate entities were with him at the time? There's a lot that's going to be exposed here, folks. It's only the beginning. There's a bigger story here. There's a bigger story. You know when you pull up a rock and you see all the bugs and insects underneath it? That's what this is right now. Only the beginning. Only the beginning.